Welcome back to Meghan and Harry Tales, the channel where we unpack the truth behind the headlines, uncover the double standards, and celebrate the courage of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. I'm Adrian, and today's story is a perfect example of how the same old forces, media elitism, outdated aristocratic ties, and subtle digs disguised as banter, try to chip away at Meghan's reputation. But once again, the Sussexes show us how grace rises above it all. Let's talk about India Hicks, Brooke Shields, and the curious case of a deleted video that sparked international conversation and showed just how powerful Meghan's voice still is. Imagine this. You're a global icon, a human rights advocate, a mum, a wife, and a woman who's dared to challenge the very institution she married into. And somehow, even in 2025, you're still being criticised for telling a story about your childhood. Yes, that's exactly what happened to Meghan Markle again. Recently, a clip from India Hicks's podcast surfaced, featuring Hollywood actress Brooke Shields. In this interview, Shields reflected on an International Women's Day panel in Austin, Texas, where Meghan had been a guest speaker. What should have been a celebration of empowerment quickly became the latest talking point in a tired cycle of Meghan bashing. During the podcast, Brooke Shields made a comment that many found dismissive, describing Meghan as too precious. That word alone sent social media into a frenzy. Too precious, for telling a story about changing the narrative around gender in advertising, for championing girls who dare to speak up. Let's remember this wasn't just any anecdote. Meghan, at 11 years old, saw a commercial that said, "Mothers around America are fighting greasy pots and pans." She knew it was wrong. She wrote letters. She got Procter Gamble to change the wording to say, "people all over America." A child, a young girl. And she changed the language of corporate America. That's a powerful story. But instead of honouring that moment, Brooke Shields chose to interject with a tone-deaf quip about playing a prostitute at age 11 in the controversial film Pretty Baby. It was meant to lighten the mood, she claimed. But let's be honest, it wasn't a joke. It was a deflection. A classic case of undermining a woman's moment to shine. Now, let's talk about the other half of this puzzle. India Hicks. For those who may not know, India Hicks isn't just a podcaster. She's royalty adjacent. The goddaughter of King Charles III. Daughter of Lady Pamela Mountbatten, who served as lady-in-waiting to Queen Elizabeth II. She was even a bridesmaid at Charles and Diana's wedding. Her aristocratic pedigree is practically embroidered into her family crest. India carved out her own niche as a fashion model, then as a lifestyle entrepreneur before launching a podcast. It was in this podcast that she chose to prominently feature Brooke Shields' comments about Meghan, and not just quietly include them, but lead with them, highlight them, make them the focus. But here's where things took a turn. After the episode sparked international backlash, and Meghan's supporters came to her defence online, Hicks quietly removed the video from her Substack. No apology, no explanation, just gone, replaced with a post about London's best patisseries, as if nothing ever happened. This moment tells us a lot, not just about the people involved, but about the broader media ecosystem that surrounds Meghan and Harry. Why is it that Meghan's childhood story continues to irritate certain figures? Why is a woman recalling a moment of youthful activism with pride viewed as too precious, while another woman casually referencing child exploitation in Hollywood is brushed off as humorous? Let's be clear, the story Meghan tells isn't just hers. It's a story that inspires millions of girls. It's a story about using your voice. It's a story about questioning the status quo. But to people like Shields and Hicks, that seems to be a problem. Their tone implied that Meghan's story was performative. But let's look at the facts. Meghan didn't start telling that story when she married into the royal family. She's told it since 1993 on Nick News, at just 11 years old. This isn't a new narrative crafted for attention. It's foundational to who she is. So what exactly was so threatening about it? Here's the truth. Meghan represents a new kind of woman, one who won't shrink herself to fit into palatable narratives. She speaks with clarity, she shows vulnerability, and yes, sometimes that rubs people the wrong way. But not because she's wrong, because she's right. What we witnessed with the Shields-Hicks podcast was another attempt to frame Meghan as too much, too confident, too polished, too outspoken, too precious. But guess what? Women have been called worse for far less. And it's always the same women who seem to face this kind of criticism. Women of colour, women who push back, women who refuse to be silent. What Meghan did that day in Austin wasn't precious, it was powerful. It was rooted in a lifetime of advocacy. It was a message of hope. And the fact that it continues to upset people in 2025 shows just how much we still need to have these conversations. Now let's talk about the backlash. After the podcast clip was shared online, many Meghan supporters took to social media. Some posts were passionate, some angry, and yes, some crossed the line. No one should ever condone harassment or personal attacks. Let's be clear about that. But the overwhelming majority of comments were focused on one thing, calling out the dismissive tone of the conversation. Fans felt that Shields and Hicks reduced Meghan to a caricature, that instead of engaging with her ideas, they made a mockery of them. And the timing? Let's not ignore that either. This happened during Women's History Month, during a panel that was meant to uplift women's voices. Instead, it became another excuse to tear one down. And who came to Meghan's defence? Everyday people. Women, girls, allies, people who are tired of watching her be ridiculed simply for speaking up. So why does this story matter? Why are we spending time discussing a deleted podcast clip? Because it's never just about the clip, it's about the culture that made that clip possible. It's about the people who still see Meghan not as a person but as a target. It's about the coded language, the subtle jabs, the patronising tones, the selective amnesia when it comes to her actual work. And it's about what happens when we speak out, when we say, that's not okay, when we demand better. India Hicks deleted the video, but not before people noticed. That's a win. That's accountability. Through it all, Meghan keeps going. She continues to support women's rights through the Archwell Foundation. She continues to advocate for mental health, racial justice and community leadership. She continues to tell the stories that others would rather silence. And alongside her is Prince Harry, supportive, loving and just as committed to building a better world. Whether they're speaking at conferences, partnering with non-profits or raising their children out of the spotlight, the Sussexes keep showing us what real leadership looks like. At the end of the day, this isn't just a story about Meghan or India Hicks or Brooke Shields. It's a story about power. Who gets to wield it, who gets to challenge it, and who gets dismissed for daring to speak. Meghan's childhood story isn't precious. It's revolutionary. It's a reminder that even the smallest voices can make change. And the fact that it still sparks conversation more than 30 years later, that's not an accident, that's a legacy. So let's keep telling these stories, let's keep showing up for each other, let's keep holding media figures accountable, no matter how famous or aristocratic they are. Because truth matters, and so does respect. Thanks for watching Meghan and Harry Tales. If you believe in a world where women's voices are heard and honoured, where stories like Meghan's are celebrated, not mocked, then hit that like button, subscribe and share this video with someone who needs to hear the truth. Until next time, I'm Adrian. Stay curious, stay kind and stay vocal. Stay